Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this PIC ADDA of Pune International Center. As you all know about Pune International Center, it's mainly a think tank which operates in Pune, and we have multiple programs going on throughout the year with multiple verticals in the domain of energy, environment, entrepreneurship, social innovation, and so on and so forth. You are encouraged to see the PIC website as and when possible. Under Pune International Center, we have PIC ADDA as one of the most popular program. This has started since the inception of PIC, and it has been the brainchild of Professor Amitav Mallik.
No, it was the brainchild of Dr. Kelkar, and I made it happen.
And you made it. Okay, so it has been the brainchild of two noted personalities in Pune, Dr. Vijay Kelkar and Dr. Mallik. It used to be earlier been conducted in TMTC, Tata Management Training Center, and it was a very popular program and went on for a long duration of time without even a single break. However, for last 5 to 6 months, we couldn't conduct it due to several other reasons, and therefore we are calling it as rebooting of PIC ADDA. And as we reboot it, there is no other great personality to get it rebooted from Professor Mallik himself. So we have today's lecture by Professor Amitav Mallik. Let me just quickly introduce. So most of you know Professor Mallik. In any case, I'll just quickly introduce you. Professor Amitav Mallik, he is an Indian defense technologist and the founder director of one of the most important DRDO labs called LASTEC. It's Laser Science and Technology Center, which is in Delhi. He is known for his experience in defense system design and development. He has been the advisor of National Security Advisory Board of India and former advisor of defense technology at Embassy of India at Washington, D.C. He has authored many books in defense technology, such as Technology and Security in the 21st Century, a demand-side perspective. He has more than 50 technical papers and over 100 classified analysis documents on defense technology. He is honored by Government of India in 2002 with the 4th highest Indian civil award, Padma Shri. To just quickly tell you the books that he has authored, one is Renewable Energy Technologies, Special Focus on Distributed Power, Need for Global Convergence by Pentagon Press, Role of Technology in International Affairs at Pentagon Press, and so on and so forth. So the list is quite long, and as you all know, he is a trustee and founder of Pune International Center. He is the initiator of many programs in this PIC forum. He heads the Energy and Environment and Climate Change vertical of PIC. Along with the trustee, he is a former member, as I told you, of NSAB, and he's been a yoga practitioner for over 40 years. I have very fond memories of Professor Mallik because he also has worked in Defense Institute of Advanced Technology, DIET, from where I come, and I have gotten to know him from DIET, and now I consider him more as a philosopher and a friend. It's a pleasure, sir, to host this program for you. Let us hear from him now. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Namaskar. Good evening, all our friends and all are interested in science and spirituality. So I'm totally comfortable. As Sangeeta is a physics professor, I have been also a physics professor, electronics professor. And we, people in physics and electronics, etc., are very restless people. We try to keep on doing all kinds of things all the time. So I changed from electronics to laser, from laser to national security, from national security to environment and energy environment, etc. And now I'm shifting, not leaving others, but shifting my focus on science and spirituality. So this first slide itself is a little telltale slide. याला थोड़ा सा एक क्लिक करा राइट टीचर राइट क्लिक करा हाँ बस. So I have changed E is equal to mc square into ohm is equal to mc square. M is different, c is different. M is for mind now, and c is for consciousness. This is a little play, and that is the talk about that physics and Vedanta or Adhyatma, there are lots of similarities. In both cases, there are uncertainties because we are dwelling into a gray zone where everything cannot be proved. That is the situation of the existing level of physics understanding. And yet, there are indicators that there are many ways that the Adhyatma, or I'm particularly studying Advaita Vedanta. What Advaita Vedanta says and what quantum theory says are not very different. The advantages, the Upanishads and Vedanta started in our country 3,000, 4,000 years ago. West did not even know it. First time West came to know about our treasure trove of Sanatan Dharmas, Upanishads and things when Swami Vivekananda went in 1893. He gave a talk at the Chicago meeting of the what was it called? Religion, World Religion Conference.
World religion.
Mind you, he was not invited. He did not know the place. He was looking for the place, and some kind people helped him go there. And when he spoke, brothers and sisters of India, he made such an impact that he became the main speaker for the entire event and got many followers to understand the wealth of inner knowledge that India had. Today, very interestingly, the statistics show in USA, in UK, in Europe, that the conventional religious attendance in churches and things are dipping, are reducing very fast. At the same time, the choice for individual practice of yoga and meditation has got increased. And this has been researched at many places. And many of the universities, known universities, whether it's Harvard or California or Berkeley, they are actually having departments of consciousness studies. So there is a clear understanding that what the rishis and munis of India and some of the Buddhist scholars, some of the Chinese scholars also were there. But this Eastern culture and scholarly understanding of the inner mechanism of a human is something very totally absent there, and they are talking about it. So I'm talking about science and spirituality. What is the difference and what is similarity? For science, I'm taking quantum theory or quantum mechanics because that is closest to explaining many things, and that has demolished many of the classical physics theories and opened up gray zones where we are also delving through the Adhyatma. For instance, before Einstein, that is early 20th century, it was the Newtonian physics had established everything to be standard, fixed. Space, time, everything was fixed. Because they were looking, Newtonian physics were looking at the macro picture. And everybody was quite happy. In the context of how things are changing, we must also remember that thousands of years, few thousand years ago, Earth was considered flat. And Copernicus, when he said it's round, he was punished. And so science is also depends on the people. Interpretation of science is up to the human being. The reason I'm pointing out is that overall knowledge is human-centric. And that is the message that is coming very clearly, whether it is the Upanishads or Vedantas or other theories, other practices. So today, if you go in the literature survey, am I audible all right?
Yeah.
I'm not picking up this and doing anything. So in the literature survey and books, since I have now researching into it, I find copious literature, deep research, very well-known scholars who are spending years together to understand how is it that the rishis and mystics in India knew all this, which they are now discovering and printing. There is a difference. Science started looking outward, objective analysis of everything around. The Vedanta or spirituality started from inward. Both were looking at the same thing, that how the human being can be more at ease, more at peace, and more joyful. That's why this convergence is coming through. Question starts, whether it's science or whether it's Vedanta, who am I? Is it my body? Is it my mind? Is it my experience? Is it my memories? This is for me. No, I don't want it. I'm sorry. This is for me because this lot of text is very text heavy. I have not. So please listen to me because it's more communication than that. तुम्ही असं ते बंद करा. Huh? Yeah. So whether it is experience, whether it's memories, and or observations, these are all external. We see, hear, smell, touch, all that, and that is why I pick up the signals, pick up the inputs. Question is, who is that who understands the experience, who remembers the memory, and so on and so forth? Is it body? No. Is it mind? No. Is it intellect? Yes, maybe to some extent. So, Sharir, Man, and Chitta. That's why we say Satchidananda. Sat is true. Chit is consciousness. Ananda, of course, everybody knows. So that Satchidananda in one word encompasses all that has been researched. Ordinary humans, ordinary life, there is, oh, so nice to have you.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I'm dwelling in your subject.
Oh. I lost my way a little.
Yeah. So, you must see this little trick of the formula. Okay? To continue with it. He is Abhay Firodia from the Bhandarkar Institute. I'm no match to the Sanskrit scholarship that he has, but I'm trying in my small way to express what I understand about the science and spirituality.
Should leave now.
No. As I said, who am I? Who observes? Who remembers? Who that? And that is how we start. Now, these questions we are asking, we are talking at this PIC ADDA. All people who have come are interested in that kind of subject. Not many. Why? Because normal people are overtaken, overwhelmed by the day-to-day issues. It is upbringing, it's indoctrination, it's in schools, in childhood, in everything. You have to succeed, you have to beat the other guy, you have to earn more, you have to get a job, you have to do well, you have to be affluent. And in that place, you have to be healthy, go to gym. All these things are priority because that is how we are structured. Now in that, suddenly somebody says, no, you go and learn yoga. Usually people go to learn yoga because they've got a back pain or some other pain. Then you say, learn meditation. If he is very agitated, he will probably agree. West is now moving to that as a solution to their problem, yoga and meditation. Whereas we do it, yoga and meditation, as an inquiry, as a search for truth, as a search for me, I. Okay? I started yoga training when I was 33-year-old. Why? Because Iyengar Guruji, B.K. Iyengar, my Guruji, he started his yoga institute in the model colony, which was walking distance from where I was staying. And I was very curious. I was always been curious about such things. So I walked in and told him that I want to join. That time the only students were his son and his daughter. So I was the third person. He said, why? What do you want? What's your problem? I said, no, I don't have any problem. I have curiosity. I want to know. I want to learn. He was very happy. He said, people don't understand the value. To cut long story short, I stayed with him for 6 years. I became his favorite, and so on and so forth. And after that, he said, I'm very proud of you, but I have taught you everything. In fact, he used to put me in Dhanasana and all that. So he said, now either you leave your physics and electronics and teach this, or you balance whatever. I said, I cannot leave my career. That's how it is. So, true to my promise to my Guruji, I have continued with my yoga and pranayama training and understanding for about 40 years. That is the only qualification I have here today to stand and talk about this subject. Then, of course, this has been part of my life. Since I lost my life partner and wife 2.5 years ago, and she went like that. She went through she had a heart attack, went through a treatment, had a angioplasty. It looked like everything was good. Out of the blue, on the 15th, 16th day in the evening, she said, I'm feeling uneasy. I don't know, something is happening again. And before we could do anything, she would not go to hospital. She said, my time has come, I can feel it. So 2-3 things. I just suddenly lost her when I thought I don't have to worry about anything for 2-3 years. And then my partner, whom I knew so well for 50 years, held my hand and said, my time has come. How did you know? And she was not afraid. She was not panicky. There was no fear. How? That how is driving me to understand what is it. I call myself a scientist, curious, and yet I could not understand. So it is this that is kind of a situation where we know so little about ourselves, and yet it is our own self. So that is what I'm coming to. Excuse me. So this whole physics, as I was explaining, changed from Newtonian physics to Einstein's physics, which was relativity, and then of course to quantum mechanics, quantum theory. Thank you. Then at each stage, this scenario started changing. It's almost like demolishing the previous understanding and starting with a new paradigm. It happened with relativity, it happened with quantum theory. That means what? That means whatever was taken as a standard, when it was not really standard, it was a standard for some people who believed in it. If cut the story short, it is the human being, it is the observer that makes everything happen. There is a famous Young's interferometric study, double slit experiment where you pass a more coherent light, ideally laser, through two slits. If nobody is observing the whole thing, then it remains like particle. As soon as you observe, the particle transforms into a wave function, and then you get the interference. How? The particle, whether it is photon, electron, whatever you want to call it, are they omniscient? The answer is yes. There is some element of that feeling which is there in everything that we deal with. This was not known to the West. All the physics was known, everything was happening, but the subject of Adhyatma, or subject of value of mental ease, which you can do with yoga, which you can do with meditation, and you can increase the qualitative status of your own self. This was introduced to the West by Swami Vivekananda way back in 1893. Since then, there has been a large following. But I was just telling my friends that it is now that there are more people, Western people, going to learning yoga and understanding meditation than people who are going to the church earlier. Why? Because the evolution of the human being, the mental evolution, the psychological evolution, and the trend for going towards spirituality, Adhyatma, is increasing. So as I said, we understand how observer is becoming the central point. In even a physical experiment, the observer being there and not being there makes all the difference. Before that, in classical physics, observer was incidental. What quantum theory has done is he put the observer in the center stage. That is the basic difference has come because it is like that, which is what we are beginning to understand. Going through all these kind of things, the physicist came to understand that there are some weird phenomena that happens in physics which has no answer. There is a identification of particles called entangled particles. It can be a pair or it can be more than one pair. The principle is that whatever happens to one of the two entangled particles, exactly the same happens to the entangled particle miles away, eons away. How is it possible? So Einstein did not agree. He said there is something wrong. But when the quantum theory came, the quantum theory mathematically could understand that can happen. But that was not acceptable to most. Lo and behold, 2023 Nobel Prize was given to three scientists, Alan Aspect, John Krauser, and Anton Zeilinger. They experimentally devised an experiment and proved that entangled particles do exist and they do exactly behave as explained by the quantum theory. Spooky? Yes. Totally understood? No. All explanations available? No. But it's reality. It is reality, and it is what the Adhyatma can understand. Not through mathematics, but through internal understanding. So it is this kind of thing that is what's happening. The point is, if two particles thousands of miles away or millions of miles away can instantly know what is happening to each other, what is the mechanism? Unknown. But the communication or messaging is happening at the speed of light, at the speed which is more than speed of light. So therefore the Einstein had objected, but later on it is proved. What does it mean? For physics, I am a scientist, physicist. For me, the only explanation is that for objective articles, objects, things, yes, speed of light is constant, maximum. But for intuitions, intentions, messages that pass through subtle body, there is no limit. For instance, we have 5 senses, and whatever sense in the somewhere sitting, you know somebody is looking at me. What tells you that somebody is looking at you? Behind you? It's a weird feeling that we get. Somebody is observing us. What is this mechanism? We don't know. Likewise, telepathy. Whether a Japanese mother will be knowing what happens to her child in USA, and they almost communicate with each other by mind. Telepathy. Partly understood, not totally understood. And that communication is faster than the speed of light. So there are mechanisms, there are things that are in the gray zone for our understanding as of today. And I was just now telling that at one point, Earth was considered flat, and those who said no, it's round, were actually punished, penalized. So it means that ultimately it is the observer, it is the human being, which is the center of the everything. So is the world real? Is the universe real? Of course it is real. And of course it is not real. Why? Because the known parameters, macro picture, yes, of course they are established. And we are now understanding the universe, gravity, everything to the extent that we can send our spacecrafts with absolute accuracy to Moon, Mars, etc. And yet there is an element which we don't know. That is the situation. What we are talking about is spooky. So here I will take a little help of the movie that most of you people must have seen, The Matrix. It was a movie where artificial intelligence, AI machines, had kept all people under simulated sleep. They were strapped to machines, and they were fed a program. That program was called Matrix, so that they never wake up and they believe that they are in the normal life. They do their things, they go to school, go to job, get married, produce kids, everything, go through the whole life as per the software program, controlled by some funny elements. It was to show that what we are living today can be completely an illusion. What does the Vedanta say? Jagat Mithya, Brahman Satyam. What is that Brahman? That Brahman is the undescribable element which is there, we know, but we can't describe it, we can't measure it. It also says, Aham Brahmasmi. It says, you are the center of everything. You are the Brahmas. You see, what the quantum theory is saying and what the Vedanta is saying are almost similar. Vedanta is saying observer is critical. Until and unless he observes a phenomena or a particle, it doesn't exist. Same here. So, we saw the Matrix, that Neo, the hacker, and the Morpheus, who was the leader, they understood that this was all mithya or illusion, deception, and they wanted to extract human beings from this illusionary control. So Neo fought and all that. Again there, Neo went and met a legendary thinker head. What was the name? I forget. That lady. What she said? That it is you. If you think it can be solved, it is you. Atat. We are also being told by Advait, it is you. Brahman is within you. You are part of the Brahman. Ultimately, everything, whether it is science or philosophy, Advait, Vedanta, whatever it is bringing out that the observer, the human entity, is the center point of the universe, the cause, effect, and everything. And yet, the observer is not a participant. The Brahman is not a participant. So, Vedanta gives the anomaly of the dream. When you get the kind of sleep where you get a good dream, you create the dream. You observe the dream. You observe the emotions of the dream characters. So you are attributing those qualities also, but you are sleeping, you are observing. You are not part of it. You can murder somebody in your dream, you will not be punished. You can win a lottery in your dream, nothing will happen. And yet, for that time frame, for that mind frame, that was reality, as good as real. That's why Jagat Mithya, Brahman Satyam. Now, if you look at these messages that are coming through the Vedanta, spirituality, and the advances in physics, and if we look at the way we are trying to mimic the human capacities with artificial intelligence, we will soon be achieving the kind of complexity, almost human-like complexity. But will that human-like complexity overtake the part of Brahman? I don't think so. There is something much larger than what the technology can understand today. That understanding was there in our rishis and elders thousands of years ago. That is when Upanishads and the Vedas came out. Later on, of course, Shankaracharya put it in 300 or 400 before, and all that is treasure trove of our understanding and dream. But the reasons I'm trying to bring it out, that as curious, intelligent human being, just as I'm trying to ask myself so many questions and not finding answers, I'm sure many of you in many situations will be asking these questions. Who am I finally? What affects? Can I change those things? I've taken a lot of time. So, what is the summary of why am I talking about it? Today, the world is in turmoil. Today, the human values are at the bottom. Tolerance for each other is at the minimum. The whole energy of the world, whether you call it energy in terms of actual energy or money or whatever it is going on in solving problems. Who created the problems? Human beings. Small or big, whatever it is, if you look at it from the perspective of a observer, what we observe? Yes, in some things we get involved because our whole psyche is that we respond to the external stimulus. We have hardly any time to search our own mind and go within to know what I am, but we have all the time to listen, sense, all other things about outside world. So we spend the whole life worrying about things that are of no use at all. And we don't worry about or think about what really should be matter to us. That tendency is going on increasing. At least in societies like ours, there is some amount of discipline, not by law, discipline from within. Discipline by within, good intention, compassion for others. I will do only what is required. I will take only what is mine. Why? Those are the values that are forgotten. They were there in my school days. I remember my school teachers. They're fantastic. One of my Marathi teacher, He used to put a rumal on his collar, handkerchief, and I never knew why. Otherwise, everything was good. So once I had to step in during the lunch hour when he was resting. He had taken his sadra, and I realized he used to put it because his collar was all torn. I cried. Because I came from a richer family. And very often my mother used to insist that the driver drops me to the school. Thank God, I never let him come to the school gate. I will always tell the driver, leave me before. I don't want anyone to see me getting off from the car. However, 15-year-old, who taught me all this? It is these values which you are forgetting. It is these values which hopefully will come back into our life, societies, and then maybe we will overcome the problem that we are seeing today. Otherwise, the problems are going on multiplying, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, and there is no solution because there is no tolerance for each other, there is no compassion for each other, there is no honesty within each other, for ourselves. Why is it happening? Because nobody has the bandwidth to look inside. The bandwidth is all taken up by looking outside and reacting to it. That is the message of Vedanta and spirituality and science and spirituality that I would like to share with you all. I don't know how much time I've taken. I'll stop here because if anybody has something to say, something to ask, I should be able to. Thank you.
And just quickly initiate the dialogue.
No.
Thank you, sir, for a very, very, very interesting talk. Actually, the single talk had so many things that you could cover, and therefore, I'm sure there are so many questions
And so many that I could not cover.
It's a very, very vast topic, sir. But there are so many questions I'm sure everybody would have. So, yeah, anybody has any questions?
I don't claim any authority on the subject. I'm a student, I'm a seeker. To the extent I can answer your questions and curiosities, I'll try.
Yeah, I have no question, but I have comments, of course. Your deep involvement in whatever you are saying itself speaks a lot for what is the truth, or what is Atman. Atman in you and Atman in me, that's how we are trying to connect. Yes. The way you were getting overwhelmed when you were talking, it was not because of the incident, because you were realizing something different now than what you had realized then. That is what I felt.
Thank you. It is the fact. And it's happening, not only happening to, it will happen to everybody. Also from depth. And mind you,
This is not overwhelming by grief. It is overwhelming out of gratefulness, gratitude. Human life is one of the most wonderful things that can happen. We don't bother about it. We go through like robots.
That's true.
Yes.
Is there any need to prove whatever is written, like we say in science? Because I believe whatever is existing for 350 years, 650 years, thousands of years without any new addition, does it really need to be proved again and again?
Probably you came a little late. In fact, my initial part of the talk was how much of the physics has changed in the last 300, 400 years. Newtonian physics is gone. Einstein's relativity has been challenged. It is the quantum theory and quantum mechanics which is able to answer many things. And the main thing that has changed in Newtonian physics, everything was fixed. Observer had no role. Now, today, as we understand physics, and Observe where is the centrum. In Newtonian physics, space and time was fixed. Cartesian coordinates. Today, we are talking about universe being not real. Space and time are relative. 100 less than quantum physics and quantum theory came up around 60s, early 60s. Before that, we all believed E is equal to mc square. That means the speed of light is constant. Nothing can go faster than that. What can go faster than that? No object. But is object the limit? No. There are many things which are subjective. That is the understanding which is coming today. And those subjecting things, thoughts, intuitions, telepathy, they obviously can go faster than light. So this is how the whole physics and understanding, everything is changing, nothing is fixed. Yes, tendency is to say, prove it, then I'll remember. So I was just telling, even entangled particles, it has been proved. For that, 3 physicists have been given Nobel Prize this year.
So when I was in college in Kerala, we used to pass in front of a place of worship. It was a towering structure.
Pass in front of what?
Okay. And they used to say that from the top of that place of worship, you could see the Arabian Sea, which was 40 to 50 kilometers away. There was a person who used to stand, a street urchin. People call him a madman. But he used to say something repeatedly. Every day we used to hear him say, there is a place, this structure is to protect God. God is there to save man. Man has constructed this structure to protect that God. The reason why he said that was because there was a lightning conductor on top of the place of worship. What is your idea? And we as youngsters, we used to have questions about, is there a God? And I see my daughters, I don't see them particularly spiritual or religious for that matter. But what is your idea of God? One question that comes to my mind is there a God? My belief is based on the truth that everything cannot be, as you said, everything cannot be proved. There are no answers to all the questions we have in our mind.
You answered your question. You said, my belief. Right? My belief is billions and beliefs. Right? If there was no cohesion, if there was complete disharmony, nothing would work. So it is our custom. We do puja, we do this, we do that. Do I believe? No, I don't believe. Do I value? Yes, I value. Because it has meant to put people together. Ganpati puja we do, it's a social event. But yes, for some people, Ganesh is the supreme. My wife used to do Ganpati puja. I would also join her because I don't mean disrespect. But I don't believe Ganesh can save me tomorrow. But Ganesh can bring harmony in the whole society. Each and every custom in India or in our system is with a purpose. Common people cannot understand all the logic and all the complicated things. They understand the small thing, simple thing. Aisa karo, it will be good for you. Aisa karo, God will take care of you. So God is a belief. In Vedanta, which we were talking, there is no God. There is Brahman. What is Brahman? Brahman is the ultimate energy, ultimate. But then the Vedanta says, you are Brahman. Because everything we do, each one of us does, starts with me, ends with me. Obviously, for me, the entire whole earth and world and everything is me. So that is the nearest proof that I can give to what Vedanta has said. Of course, it is Ultimately, it is you, the observer, you, the individual living human being. That's why I'm saying getting a human life is a blessing. Getting a mind that can work constructively is super blessing. Getting together to increase our potential, increase our understanding is the real grace of God. Which God? All of them together. It's not that I don't go to temple, but I go to temple not because I feel like going to the deity and asking for something. I never ask for anything. I go to temple because I like the atmosphere. Temple is a place where largely hundreds of people come with no other agenda except praying to God. Can you understand the strength of that? The value of that? That is what I think. God is a concept, but it's an extremely valuable concept. Without which we will fall apart. That is what Vedanta has said. That is what our Sanatana Dharma has propagated. That is what our Upanishads have said. But then that godliness starts with you. If that is not there, then you are not. By only going to temple and doing all the procedures, you don't become godly. Godliness starts from within. Everything starts from within. That's how I have understood the thing. I don't think I have an answer for what you asked, but I think partial answer I've tried to give.
Professor, you said something about entangled particles. That concept is not clear as well. At a distance of millions and millions of millions, maybe like yes, same thing, similarly.
It is like, yeah, may I answer? To the extent that I have understood, entangled particle is a mathematical reality. And
Scientists have been trying to prove since last 50 years, or maybe 45 years. Nobody believed that that can be there. The question that you are asking, how can it be? Right? Because the belief was surrounded by the concept that universe has limits. Entangled particles, is it on some nebula? It is on somewhere else? Can you define? If you are saying entangled particle, you should be able to talk about the space, the identity, coordinates. There is no coordinates. So only thing that is there is that whatever you do to one of the two entangled particles, the conjugate opposite will happen to the other particle. Why? Maybe that it is a phenomena, wow, the nature balances everything. We don't notice it because we don't know it. So entangled particle is a reality mathematically. Now entangled particle has been proved experimentally, and for that the three scientists were given Nobel Prize.
So is it a huge compound mind?
No,
Would it be?
no, it's at a macro level or micro level.
So quantum
No.
These are photons actually. So these are entangled photons. So they are created, now they are created in the lab. Sir, can I?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So they are created in the lab now, and now they are able to. So basically, these are two photons which have the same phase, they travel with the same speed, and if they are made to interact with each other, they will form an interference pattern. But if they are not observed, then as what sir is saying, they will travel infinite distances and still they would be coupled. So they would be coupled in spite of the fact that they are separated by millions of kilometers apart. So this particular latter part of it has not been proved, but generation of qubits, they are called as qubits. So generation of qubits has been now done in the lab. So we have lot of miles to go before we go to the phase at which we can write this kind of an equation.
Incidentally, I'm a laser scientist. And that's why my whole curiosity has been heightened for looking at all this. What she's saying is only to the photon. But what is true for photon is also true for electrons, protons, any other particle. That is the beauty of quantum theory. So it is looking at macro and micro both. Yeah.
My name is Ashish Yadav. I'm a Sathak of Manashakti Research Center. Just wanted to share one of the historic references and check if somebody in the audience has. In 1957, Swami Vidyananda, the founder of Manashakti, had presented the possibility of mind exceeding the light speed. And the way he did
I
it.
just now said,
Yes.
thought has no speed limit.
Right. And the way, thank you. So, and the way he did it is he combined two definitions. According to Einstein's definition, right, the v square minus c square, like if v start, sorry, c square minus v square, if we start at the denominator, if light speed gets exceeded, then it's not defined, mass is not defined, right? So that means limiting speed of matter is the speed of light according to relativity. And the other definition he picked up was from psychology, from Dr. Pavlov, the Nobel Prize winning psychologist from Russia. And Russia was USSR, like completely atheist, right? Completely atheist.
Wrong. That's not right. Russia is not completely exist.
I mean, at least the ruling year was, right?
Russians are very much like Indians. I've interacted.
It was Russia for 6 years.
Right. I mean, could be, but at least the ruling year was communism, right? Completely communist idea.
Yeah, ruling thing was there.
Right. So the definition then was that mind is the delicate correlation between the subject and the object. That was Pavlov's definition. And so if we are the subject and sun is the object, it takes 8 and something minutes for the light to reach Earth, whereas in a fraction of a second the mind can go there. So
Obviously.
Pavlov would say the material bridge, to them, to the Soviets, everything was material. So he would say that this material bridge called mind reached sun and came back in fraction of a second.
But you should also know the Soviets were the leaders in parapsychology,
Yes, indeed.
in research into how minds talk to each other. They were actually leaders in telepathy. They were using telepathy as a strategic communication means.
Dr. Sergeyev and several others.
They were using kabutars, animals, for communicating. So they had gone way beyond human capacity.
So combining these two definitions, that light speed was exceeded according to mind's definition
Exactly.
and then relativity theory. So we arrived in 1957 that faster than light speed, mind travels. Mind is non-matter that transcends the
Correct.
velocity of light. And later on, 61 onwards, the references I found is that in 67 and 61, 62 time frame, there were references of tachyons. The first references to these faster than light particles, tachyons, occurred after that. So just curious if somebody in the room knew anything sooner than that. So else the credit to discover faster than light communication.
It is not discovering really.
Kind of India. Right, even in modern times. Yes, ancient Rishi did that, but even in modern times, it kind of goes to India versus to a lot of Western science. So,
We have
thank
5
you. That
minutes
was the
all.
only comment. But thanks for the enlightening talk.
Thank you. Yes?
I have a very simple and practical question. What spirituality has to offer, solution-wise, for problems faced? Maybe
To?
Problems, social problems,
Yeah.
like discrimination, hatred, intolerance, prejudice, lynching. So, what does spirituality have to say about this?
Very simple question and very simple answer. Why is all this happening? Because we are all the time relating ourselves to the other. वो मुस्लिम है मैं हिंदू हूँ, वो लड़की है मैं लड़का हूँ, वो रिच है मैं पोर हूँ, हाँ उसने ऐसा किया मुझे नहीं पसंद. All that is looking outward and reacting to it. But, for instance, somebody miraculously gets transformed into a spiritual being. He will not bother about Muslim. He will not bother about man or woman. He will not bother about anything because he is bothered only about him inside himself. He will not react to external stimuli. Those are minor. Yeah, they are reality of life, but they are minor. They will not affect his behavior or decisions. Imagine that kind of world. Why? Because internally, as a human being, we are social. Means what? We integrate naturally. Internally, we are happy people. You see the children? Nobody has to give anything else. हाँ उसको टॉय दो खुश हो जाएगा. But even without toy, they are happy. So happiness is a state of mind which we create. If we know how not to create it, we will not be unhappy. So it is a social transformation that can come. It's stupid of me to believe that something of that sort could happen, but theoretically, yes, why not? Vivekananda went all the way to England to propagate this message. His guru Ramakrishna had told him that this is the truth. Ultimately, the humanity has to come together, understand that it is not about friction, but it's about coherence. In a stupid way, I am trying to say the same thing. Actually, what I wanted to say, this kind of talk is nothing conclusive because actually there are no conclusions. It raises more questions than answers. But that is the purpose. Any books that you read, any subject you read, you first begin understanding how much you don't know, right? So this is of life and death. In our country, in our society, we don't say death, we say dehant. What is the difference between dehant and death? This is a very, very deep question. You said Atman. Many people in many countries all over the world, they don't even know what is Atman. And there is an NGO here who runs an NGO called Atman. Her majority people who are members of that are youngsters. You would think Atman means all elderly people will come because of aur to kuch raha nahi. It is the youngster who wants to know, who am I? What am I doing? What am I capable of? Many things are changing. You said everything must be true and not change. It's just the other way around. Unbelievably, everything is changing. Today, we are obsessed with money, economics, wellness, health, disease. They are all minor things. If only we came to understand that they are minor things. It is that kind of a churning of transformation going. I am working in the field of climate change, energy, environment. Everything is changing. Ultimately, I ended up saying that hopefully climate change will be the blessing in disguise. It will bring people together. Today, all this social tension that we are seeing in our country, tomorrow if China attacks us, so let us assume, it will be a blessing. People will forget the small differences. People will talk about the national security from the heart. It will be a blessing in disguise. So that's why I'm saying, for all you know, this transformation that is coming through the climate change and global warming will prove to be a blessing in disguise. It is that kind of churning that we are going through this generation, this time in this world.
Sir, can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
So now is the era in India that we have large budget in terms of Indian GDP, which has been diverted towards quantum technology. So this
Because? Why it has been diverted?
Because of multiple other reasons that it has, because there is quantum cryptography and the national security and things like that.
No. Go one step backward. Why? More money.
More
better GDP.
Yes, better GDP. So my question is that how do you think that we as Indians or in general in the world, how do we see ourselves converging and going towards this spirituality as the instrumentation and as the technology evolves and goes bigger and bigger and better and better? do you think that we will reach towards spirituality at any point of time, or we will diverge?
Theoretically, we should reach towards spiritual. But in reality, we are nowhere there.
Huh.
But having said that, the tendency of seeking spirituality, seeking peace of mind is increasing. Which means what? People are understanding, earlier it was all society, now it is individual. I can be better with myself despite society. I can be happy within myself despite government. I can be happy within myself despite all the problems around me. If that feeling increases, that's a huge plus. That's what I think can happen. I don't want to talk about GDP and all that. I'm very much against it. My good friend, elder friend, Dr. Kelkar is sitting here, so I can't say anything about GDP here.
He has one. We'll take last question
please.
and then.
How would you respond to this statement or this thought that spirituality is the luxury of the privileged? One, because by the very nature of spiritual practices, it excludes a large chunk of people. If we have this talk in front of people who are poor, living in the slums, begging for food, I don't think they would be much interested in these talks because their existential crisis is so deep and so intense that they cannot engage in these kind of intellectualized conversations about spirituality or science. So how would you respond to that?
It's a good question.
Thought.
It's a good question.
The affluence, what you're talking about,
Affluence.
in a group like this, it is not money affluence, it is thought affluence. Why? Because we have the bandwidth. We are lucky enough to have things going in our way. We are not pushed into a corner where survival is the only instinct. So we are a bunch of people who are lucky enough, but we are not crazy. Nor are we doing something which is harmful to others. Nor are we doing something very selfish. So the comparison stops there. It is a luxury of the privilege. Yes, privilege not by it. The privilege not by objective privilege. This is a subjective privilege. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So we have a subjective privilege. We are here in this room today, or people who are doing some research into that. Yes. And yet, I was reading Vedanta very seriously, but when I was caught in extreme agony, extreme distress after the demise of my wife, my seriousness increased. Would you say that's a luxury? No. It became a necessity for me. So like that, when poor people also, if they also must be going through all kinds of things in their life. When something emerges in their life which is more important than survival, they will think about it. So, as a statement, yes, I agree with you. But as a conclusion, I don't agree. Yeah,
Okay,
Can I make the last comment?
Yeah.
I think the more affluent objectively we are, the less Shraddha we have. The less affluent we are.
Not necessarily, but that's the tendency.
Yeah, and they have more Shraddha. So they don't question everything. So probably
They don't need to.
Better off.
Yeah.
We tend to question everything. We have doubts about everything in our mind, and so nothing satisfies us. So whatever you say, I'll still ask you a question.
Yeah.
You give me an answer, I will still ask you a question. But you are not able to satisfy me because I keep on thinking. But those people who are not as affluent intellectually, they become more, their tendency is more to believe in something. And that Shraddha is what pushes society.
Abhay sir, would you like to say something? You have a huge background on this subject.
Any comments or anything that?
I have not prepared.
No preparation required. This is very informal crowd.
I'm going to stand up.
Okay.
Why are you on this?
He is the president of the Bhandarkar Oriental research.
Oriental
Oriental.
Research Institute is neither in science nor in spirituality.
That is what is required. Yeah, it's working.
Thank you, Professor Mallik, for a very stimulating talk. You said this is the kind of subject that raises more questions than answers. I think you have brilliantly brought out the question marks. And I must say I appreciate being present here today. I have a fundamental problem with science. Greek and European scientists over millennia, on the one hand, have propounded logic. You say everything must have logical explanation. There is air and it is flowing, there is a reason for it. If there is water and it's falling down, there is a reason for it. And heat is transferring, there is a reason for it. So they have tried to find what we call scientific reasons for everything that happens. So this is on the one hand a quest for a logical solution to everything, including existence of the world, the size of the universe, the speed of light. But at the same time, all these Western scientists, over at least the last 2000 years, have believed in Christianity. And posited God. You said there is God. How do you reconcile these two things? One is the quest to explain everything logically, and on the other hand, to accept a completely fictitious, a totally imaginary entity called God. I'm not saying there is no God. I'm not saying there is God. I'm saying that this whole subject of science is eventually trying to answer everything. Now, recently after the JSW telescope has gone out, and they are saying, oh, we were wrong, time does not exist, and whatnot. Now, all that is now going to raise a whole plethora of new questions. And for the next 100 years or so, people will be speculating, calculating, and explaining different phenomena. At the end of which, we will find another conundrum. Which one is again going to raise 10 times more questions? And when you talk of spirituality, I personally believe, this is my personal belief, you may differ from me. Spirituality is very rightly finding the balance within yourself of what you question and where you stop.
Yeah.
If you question everything, you're not going to find the answers. Where you stop must make you and your surroundings comfortable. Then you are comfortable. You mentioned about your highly emotive experiences which happened after what happened in your life. All of that is only indicative of the fact that being a scientist, you came to the understanding that this scientific explanation which you have pursued your whole life and at which you have excelled is something which is had a very limited relevance.
Yeah.
What has that great relevance is something nobody can understand. When you have this realization as you have had, you have found peace. And spirituality is a very wrong word for that, in my opinion. Spirituality has a tinge of the
Really?
supernatural.
No, it has a tinge of religiosity also.
Sorry?
Religiosity. That is the problem.
Religiosity is another bigger conundrum.
Yes.
Because religiosity implies that you believe in something as a solution.
Which is not so here.
which is
Not
the
so.
more we know, the less we understand. And the less we know, the more we are at peace. So, this subject of science and spirituality was a little bit of an enigma for me. And therefore, I especially came, and I'm glad that I came.
I'm glad you found it enigmatic so that you came.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, sir, for a wonderful talk.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to reboot PIC ADDA this way. So, yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir,
very
for
much.
your presence.